Tune in, Minnesota tonight. Tune in, Minnesota tonight. Minnesota tonight. Minnesota tonight. Tune in, Minnesota. Tune in, Minnesota tonight. Tune in, Minnesota tonight. Tonight. Minnesota tonight. Minnesota tonight. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Cody.
I'm Aron, and this is the state of Minnesota.
A home daycare provider in Moorhead, Minnesota was accused of being drunk while caring for 7 children. When approached for comment, the woman said, "I was caring for kids in northwest Minnesota. You thought I'd be sober?"
Walter Palmer, the dentist well known for killing Cecil the Lion, has been acquitted on all charges, making this the second worst thing an American has done in Africa. The first is slavery.
Grant Nichols, a member of the Columbia Heights School Board, recently resigned in the wake of Islamophobic comments he made over Facebook. He did just make an apology over Twitter, though, stating, "I'm sorry if I offended anybody. I've chosen to resign. Hashtag so wrong. Hashtag maybe a little bit right now that I'm thinking about it again. Hashtag Hitler had it right. Hashtag sorry about that last part."
A study detailing polarizing sports topics in Minnesota has highlighted Joe Mauer, quarterbacks, and stadium funding as the top 3 issues. Close behind were that time we lost and that time we almost won.
Gary Huffman, owner of the Grand Ole Creamery, said the proposal to add more traffic meters to St. Paul's Grand Avenue would send the neighborhood back into the dark ages, because as we all know, the shittiest part of the dark ages was the parking. You're trying to find a place to park the horse, and then you tie the horse up, the horse is dead now, we gotta get a priest to pray for the horse, the holy water has the plague, it's the whole thing.
Daryl Sider, an assistant Minnesota Wild coach, was arrested Friday on suspicions of DWI. The arresting officer claimed Sider presented many symptoms of drunk driving, such as bloodshot eyes, an odor of alcohol, and being an assistant hockey coach.
USA Today ranked Minnesota as having the best state fair in the nation. And you know what? Sure, I'll take that. We'll take that. I mean, if you have to have an outdoor obesity convention sharing space with an acid trip cook-off, it might as well be the best one, right?
You know, we also have great math.
Really, really good.
So, downtown Minneapolis last weekend was filled to the brim with mindless idiots wandering around aimlessly from place to place in the middle of the night. And in other news, the zombie pub crawl was last Saturday. I heard that was pretty fun.
St. Paul police shot and killed a runaway cow on Friday after failed attempts to tranquilize it.
Is it like a black cow?
Moving on.
Minnesota-based General Mills has recalled gluten-free versions of Cheerios and Honey Nut Cheerios for actually containing gluten.
What? There was gluten in there? Aron, are the kids okay?
Cody, they're dead.
Target is investigating pornographic audio played over the loudspeaker at one of their California locations last week. Customers present in the store said that the audio was dirty, but cleaner than most Walmarts.
Governor Dayton announced plans to create a state office to help businesses break down barriers for employment for communities of color. The new office will have 2 full-time employees compared to the 10 for the Minnesota State Board of Animal Health. Because obviously we need 5 times as many people helping out birds. Can a brother get a job? Oh wait, no, a turkey already has one.
The Minnesota Zoo held a special adults-only night this past Saturday. One mother said the heavy petting zoo was a nice touch.
The Minnesota Lynx received a call from President Obama last week to congratulate their win at the WNBA championships. Meanwhile, the second-place Indiana Fever woke up to a late-night voicemail from Joe Biden.
Ladies! Hey, I'm sorry I missed you. You tried, you lost, you can't all win. I'm a runner-up too. I think I'm doing pretty good.
What was that?
That was a great Biden impression. Let's give it up for Jonathan Gershberg.
Tonight, Minnesota tonight, Minnesota tonight. Yeah.
therapy, or as my dad calls it, bush light. There are many forms of therapy: psychiatry, hypnosis, and couples counseling, which is when you pay a stranger $2,000 a month to watch you yell at your loved ones. You see, honey, it's I feel like you're a major asshole, right? Dr. Henry, I'm right. Sweetie, it's my opinion. Now, therapy, you figured out a lot about me in the last 30 seconds. Therapy can be immensely beneficial. Given the right therapist can help reduce, let me take that again. The right therapist can help reduce stress, cope with trauma, or just be a captive audience for your new one-man show. Not actually a joke yet, but I'll take it. One thing therapy cannot change, however, is a person's sexual orientation. But that exact practice has been around almost as long as the field of therapy itself. The United States has an extensive history of treating gay people the way we treat circus elephants, poking and prodding them until they pretend to enjoy women riding them. Until 1973, the American Psychiatric Association officially labeled homosexuality as a mental illness, a disability, something capable of being cured. Cured in the same way that Ben Affleck wrote Good Will Hunting, or in the same way my stepmom, Janice, loves me. And in searching for that cure, psychologists use some gruesome treatments that cause mental and sometimes physical harm on their patients. For most of the 20th century, doctors routinely prescribed electroshock therapy, forced nausea, and even lobotomies to change their subject's sexual preference. Since then, gay conversion has been rebranded as reparative therapy, which is almost as poor an attempt at making something shitty sound cool as when Comcast renamed itself Xfinity. Well, at least that name advertises how long you'll be on the phone asking Representative Tammy to restore your internet service. You can't fool me, Comcast! I know it's still you! Fortunately, gay conversion therapy has now been debunked by most major groups in the field, including the American Psychiatric Association, the National Association of Social Workers, the World Health Organization, and just about anyone with a heart. At this point, gay conversion therapy is as medically sound as Dr. Pepper, the drink. And unfortunately, while the methods have become less extreme, certain organizations nationwide continue to attempt to convert people from gay to straight, just like I convert potential girlfriends to strangers. Now, this is an issue because no matter if you're gay, straight, bi, trans, or anything in between, you should be worried that young people can be effectively tortured for their sexual orientation, especially in a state like Minnesota, one that has prided itself on being progressive and the only state with a brand of nice. Even Minneapolis, St. Paul's hotter sister, was ranked by Advocate magazine as the most gay-friendly city in America. But that hasn't stopped practitioners of gay conversion therapy from working within city limits. Look, some things can't be changed. Disney Channel couldn't make Zach and Cody work on a cruise ship, and no one can make gay people straight. It's a terrible idea. Even New Jersey, a state governed by an Italian manatee posing as James Gandolfini, became the first state to outlaw conversion therapy on minors in 2014. And for context, New Jersey hasn't been the first in anything since it was named state most resembling a diseased spleen. And let's face it, Kentucky was a very close second. But that's an example of slight progress over 1,000 miles away. Let's head back to Minnesota, where we have this.
Among the many billboards along Highway 10, there is one that prompted these Elk River teens to stand on the steps of the state capitol today in protest.
We noticed the sign a few weeks ago, and we knew instantaneously that it needed to be taken down. It's not okay.
As a general rule, if you're inspiring teens to do anything, you're either a high school English teacher who sits in their chair backwards, or, I don't know, bubblegum, Tamagotchis, yo-yos, whatever the kids are into these days. It does have some strange slogans, though.
The billboard advertises reparative therapy, asking, quote, "Do gay feelings mean you're born gay?" End quote. Emily Moten says gay kids need love, not conversion therapy.
The billboard is getting us involved, asking us questions, doing some crowd work. It asks, do gay feelings mean you're born gay? People around the world say no. Okay, I guess some people around the world could say no. But people around the world also say things like, righteous. The fourth Transformers was the best, and Trump 2016. So we shouldn't put too much stock in people. Glancing a bit lower, if we go to the URL listed, reparativetherapy.com, you will be redirected to a different site, davidpickuplmft.com, because for consistency's sake, even the website is uncomfortable in its own skin. That page is the personal site for Dallas-based cool guy and totally real therapist David Pickup, and presumably his assistants Eric Midsize Sedan and Rachel Jeep Grand Cherokee. David Pickup from the well-known Pickup family. You may have heard of their exploits in pickup basketball, picking up chicks, definitely not picking up dudes, and picking up effective methods to torture the gay community. Pickup is the therapist at the forefront of the so-called ex-gay movement. He serves as the head of the National Association of Research and Therapy for Sexuality, a trade organization for gay conversion. Yet, Pickup is just one of the hundreds of counselors spewing this message in the 47 states where this is still legal. Still legal, despite all the hard evidence pointing to the fact that it should fucking not be. For example, according to a 2009 study by San Francisco State University, LGBT youth who received some form of gay conversion therapy were 8 times more likely to attempt suicide and nearly 6 times more likely to report high levels of depression. Those are some pretty stark statistics for an industry that claims to be justified by scientific evidence. But that scientific evidence turns out to be just as bullshit as when my stepmom Janice said that she would come to my first pan flute recital. Where are you, Janice? Where were you? Were you watching Days of Our Lives again while smoking in the basement? I'm playing pan flute. Proponents of conversion therapy regularly cite a study conducted by psychiatrist Robert Spitzer as proof that sexuality can be forcibly changed. The study focused on homosexual participants who allegedly wanted to reach what Spitzer called good heterosexual functioning. To attain GHF, one must have at least a 7, quote, a 7 out of 10 in the overall satisfaction in the emotional relationship. Really? A 7 out of 10 is a C-. But apparently all you need is a C- to pass as straight. That's right, C-, helping everyone get by since my junior year. For 9 years, this study held water in psychiatric circles. I say 9 years because Spitzer has since drastically changed his tune. Here's a quote from the letter he wrote to the New York Times in May of 2012. Quote, I believe I owe the gay community an apology for my study making unproven claims of the efficacy of reparative therapy. I also apologize to any gay person who wasted time and energy undergoing some form of reparative therapy because they believe I had proven that reparative therapy works. With such strong evidence against the practice, even most established gay conversion centers have disbanded. Exodus International, one of the biggest reparative therapy groups in the world, even shut their doors permanently in 2013 and issued a public apology to the LGBT community. Legs to stand on are becoming increasingly hard to find for the ex-gay movement. At this point, they are basically pogoing their way to the annals of history. But don't tell them that because they are pretty against annals to begin with. In total, there are nearly 30 clinics and church organizations statewide that still practice conversion therapy, including one group terrifyingly named Called Out Ministries. Called Out, that sounds like the Christian version of punks. And I'm sure that they don't have a host nearly as charismatic as Ashton Kutcher. Called Out Ministries is a Christian gay conversion center based in Minneapolis by ex-lesbian Janet Boynes. Let's take a look at one of Boyne's success stories, Christian Chisel.
I feel like I have choices. The human brain is amazing, and I just believe that that's something that you can literally work through.
And you think it's wrong in the eyes of God to be gay?
It's not his plan for us.
Did you have any success at that?
No. I believed that I had to work to be acceptable in the eyes of God, because I believed I had to be straight in order to be accepted by him. It's hard hoping for something, and working so hard for it and wanting to be accepted in a way and have dreams. And then to find out that's not gonna be your reality. Of course I'm so thrilled and happy, and there's never been peace inside of my heart as there has been now that I'm comfortable knowing God loves me this way.
That's heartbreaking. And what kind of tactics are people like Christian subjected to? Well, the public details are few, but alongside being forced to reenact traumatic sexual abuse from his past, Chisel commented on one particularly airtight approach. Quote, "I burped once and I was congratulated because it was a manly thing to do," end quote. Yeah, crazy how that didn't stick, because every time I get a tough jar open, I'm just overwhelmed with pelvic thrusting heterosexual testosterone. This brainwashing is paid for by numerous well-funded organizations in Minnesota that support conversion therapy, including Minnesota Family Council, the Family Research Council, and the Pro-Family Forum. Look, we get it. You love families. Man on woman families. But family isn't about homophobia. It's about resenting your children for stealing your youth and killing your marriage. Let's get it right. And coming to my goddamn pan flute recital, Janice! That's what family is! But the icing atop this homophobic shit cake is that licensed therapists practicing conversion therapy can be reimbursed by the state when patients can't pay for their services. Medical assistance, Minnesota's low-income healthcare plan, covers this gay conversion therapy, meaning our tax dollars are literally paying for it. But luckily, that can change soon. Identical bills introduced in the Minnesota State Senate and House would ban conversion therapy on any patient under 18 and would disallow the use of Medicaid to pay for it. Go to this website here to find your representatives and tell them to support the Protection from Conversion Therapy Act to make sure that people don't suffer the same psychological abuse as Christian and so many others. It's not much, but it's something. And that's all we can ask for, since there's no real way to ban hateful, closed-minded thinking. As long as there are gay people, there will be uncles of gay people who swear that one more ride in the Dodge pickup will get them batting for the right team again. But despite all the hate and judgment in the world, there will always be love and acceptance, and as long as we have that, eventually we'll be the ones converting them. Thank you guys for MN10. Thank you.
Tonight, Minnesota tonight, Minnesota tonight. Yeah.
We're here with the executive director of Can't Convert Love, Alec Fischer. Alec Fischer, everyone, let's give him a round. So, Alec, you are the executive director of Can't Convert Love, which is a national organization that is fighting gay conversion therapy across the U.S., right?
Correct.
And how old are you?
I will be 22 in November.
And you are an executive director.
Yeah.
I'm barely an executive director of myself. And let me just say, my board, which consists of both my parents, is very disappointed in my actions recently. But so you're an executive director with hundreds of people working alongside you in some way, right?
I mean, you could say that.
I will say that. Were you just some sort of wonder kid who had to have some sort of social justice mission to fulfill, or did some role to be an executive director? Or how did you get involved with Can't Convert Love?
It's a good question. I'm not some wonder kid, don't worry.
Oh.
I'm not gonna fly off after this interview. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Close the hole! Close it!
I started Can't Convert Love Minnesota with one of my best friends about 2.5 years ago. And at the time, the national branch was also ongoing, and we were focused specifically in Minnesota, trying to pass legislation to ban conversion therapy in Minnesota. And after 2 years of fighting that fight, I decided to move to the national organization to do more advocacy work.
Okay, awesome. And now you're the executive director, so congratulations. Very quickly moving up the ranks, may I say. So if you're working in Minnesota, do you find that now that you're the national director, do you find that Minnesota is comparatively less homophobic than other states in the union? Because I think a lot of my friends confuse Minnesota with Minneapolis. I'm pretty sure I've heard people be like, yeah, in the state of Minneapolis, like, this stuff doesn't happen. But, like, is that the case?
I mean, I would say Minneapolis is fairly progressive. The outskirts of Minneapolis and then rural Minnesota are not so much. And it's funny because if you go anywhere outside of Minnesota and outside the Midwest, people assume that Minnesota is corn. And it's like, no, that's Iowa.
Right, we don't have corn here.
We're not that.
We burned it all down.
So, yeah, I think that there's definitely, if you're stuck in Minneapolis, or if that's where if you're focused in Minneapolis, you definitely get to see the more progressive side of things, including politics, like we saw with the gay marriage amendment and all of that. But I definitely think the further outside of Minneapolis you go, the more conservative it gets in terms of social issues.
Right, so for a legislative perspective, how do you overcome working with the whole state that might not share the views of the cities that we live in and work in?
It's really interesting because most people that you talk to, whether they're conservative or liberal in their views, actually agree that conversion therapy is something that needs to be banned, especially for minors, or if they're not sure about where they stand legislation-wise, they agree that it's not something that should be promoted. Most of the conversations that I've had with people most people don't realize that it still exists. Like it's some medieval practice that was, way back when.
Just to be clear, it is a medieval practice. We just still have it.
Yes.
And so what do you think it's going to take to change that? Because I think America, how long has Will and Grace been on? Many years? And people still are homophobic? I don't know how that's possible.
We need to keep doing more reruns.
Well, we need more reruns. We need more of them.
Get it cycling.
Yeah, get that cycle going. So, but what do you think it's going to take to actually change both perception and laws and politics?
I think the biggest thing, and my parents were this way when I first came out to them as a gay male, I think the biggest thing is people are just scared of what they don't understand. And so the biggest mission that we have is raising awareness that gay people are normal and that they are safe to be around. It's not something that you can cure. And through that, we're trying to empower youth to stand up and say, we're not okay with this practice and you can't cure us. And so I think the biggest thing is just taking people who maybe haven't been introduced to someone who's gay and saying this is okay. They are a normal person, their sexuality doesn't define them. They can use it as a defining piece of their identity, but that's not something that's harmful. And I think that a lot of people who are in support of conversion therapy or sign their kids up for this practice, I think are scared. Because they don't have the information out there that it is something that's normal and it is something that's okay.
Right, so the way we make them not scared is by taking them by the shoulders and yell at them, it's not scary! It's so normal! Right, that's mainly what you do.
Don't volunteer for our...
Okay. I'm also banned from movie theaters. And all Six Flags across the US. Well, hopefully your work can get this actual legislation passed as soon as possible. And thank you for being here. Alec Fischer, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Minnesota tonight. Minnesota tonight. Yeah.